I was involved in the city of Temple City when they were, throughout the process of developing and implementing that project that we were just talking about, the Class 4 bike lane. And it left a massive impression on me. But the truth is that, I was out there doing what we call bicycle counts, counting people on their bikes on the roadway to have a general baseline understanding of usage, roadway usage for bicyclists. And, the reality is, and it's no different than many other communities, but it's very low. Bicyclists are indeed a minority on a roadway. And so when you start thinking about the amount of real estate or space that they need for a minority of people, right? And then you juxtaposition that with the need to provide safe space, you end up in this position where where's the balance? What's the right balance? Because no matter what you do, it's going to require some degree of investment, right? But I said, you know what? This is a worthy cause. And these people on bikes and vulnerable road users deserve safe space. But now let's graduate this line of thinking from improving safety and mobility for that minority and elevate that to the majority. How do we move the masses north-south in that corridor, right? And it wasn't until years later, after going into, and I got to tell a little bit about this story before I complete the story on this project you're asking about, is from my organization Bike SGV, and also a partnership that I had with Day One. It was based in Pasadena, another nonprofit. I got recruited to work for Supervisor Hilda Solis for the first district of Los Angeles County, where I was the transportation deputy. But I also covered a lot of other issues, from economic development to homelessness to parks and open space, public works, utilities, things like that. It was a broad portfolio. But I recall further south from Temple City, in unincorporated Los Angeles County, the first district, there's Whittier Narrows, right? Where Lake is, and the 60 freeway is that main kind of, it transects, right? The Rosemead Boulevard. So you got the 60 that travels east-west, and then you got Rosemead Boulevard that goes north-south. And I remember, if you recall, what I was saying earlier about all these stories that would come to light about people getting hit on their bikes or walking or whatever. So when I went to work for the supervisor, I don't remember exactly. I could certainly look it up, but it was maybe like several months after transitioning from the nonprofit to the county, an individual died crossing the street because Rosemead Boulevard in that unincorporated area has a posted speed limit of 50 miles per hour. And the on-ramps to the 60 freeway are what they call free-flowing on-ramps. So there's no traffic control, right? There's no lights, there's no stop signs. You just literally go from traveling 50 miles an hour on Rosemead Boulevard, transition onto the 60, and then go 65 miles an hour. So you're traveling fast to get onto the freeway. In the middle of that fast segment is a little crossing. No lights, no real visible markings on the street, dark day, dark night. And unfortunately, an individual got hit and died. And so, I brought to the supervisor's attention this need to improve safety, which kind of builds on some of this work that we've been doing. And she had already endorsed, the vast majority of the platform from the nonprofit for the policy agenda. And she gave us the authorization to improve that roadway, right? That particular segment of Rosemead Boulevard. Step one to do that was what we were talking about earlier, is to have the roadway relinquished from Caltrans to the county, so that we can then do all these improvements. So anyway, long story short, we ended up proceeding with that project. We got some resources, some funding, some grant money. The project to this day has not materialized, but there's reason for that, good reason. But at the same time, that stretch of roadway is also home to one of the largest regional parks in disadvantaged communities, right? You got Whittier Narrows, Lake, and that whole recreation area. So anyhow, I just remember clearly, distinctly working on Rosemead Boulevard with Temple City, Rosemead Boulevard in an incorporated, a small sliver of Rosemead Boulevard when I was working on the bike master plan with El Monte, South El Monte. So little by little over the years, I was kind of cobbling together experience along Rosemead Boulevard. And then you may have heard about the transportation renaissance that's taking place right now in LA County, right, with the results of Measure R and Measure M. Two measures, sales tax measures that were voted in by the county voters, generated an abundance of resources to then expand the light rail system. So you have the Gold Line that travels along the foothills that's currently being expanded all the way out to Claremont, possibly out to Montclair. You have the Gold Line that's being expanded from East LA all the way to the city of Whittier, the West Santa Ana branch, the Purple Line. And anyway, they're expanding the light rail system. Fast forward a little bit, I was working in the city of Pico Rivera, and I'm looking at the entire community with this, eye toward holistic master planning. And I started realizing, I was like, wow, this is an opportunity to cobble together yet another segment of Rosemead Boulevard, just south of the San Gabriel Valley, to maybe consider this effort of continuity from unincorporated LA County all the way south through Pico Rivera. And so I did a little bit of research and started working with other partners, and I found that the sub-regional governing agency in that area, in the Gateway Cities COG, had completed what is called a Complete Streets Master Plan and outlined a vision, a framework for improving Rosemead Lakewood Boulevard from Pico all the way down to Long Beach. And I took that and I said, wow, this is an opportunity to not only improve the safety for vulnerable road users, but now let's consider the masses. If we're going to do something the way Temple City did, let's master plan the heck out of this corridor. But to do that, you can't do it segment by segment by segment by segment at a time. So we launched an effort to serve as the lead entity for the Gateway Cities segment, which is about 16 miles from Pico to Long Beach, and introduce this vision for so originally you had this idea of complete streets, right, which for the most part focuses only on the streets, sidewalk, street, and sidewalk on the other side. But now this is an opportunity to also graduate and elevate the thinking a little bit more beyond just issues of mobility and safety, but we also have to address issues around housing, right? So that's when we came out with this concept of a complete corridor master plan versus a complete street master plan, because now that takes into account all the surrounding land uses along the corridor. So now we can have safe space for bikers, what we're now introducing as a bus rapid transit corridor, BRT, basically high frequency bus service. And the reason that's important is because the regional, what they call the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO, in this case it's SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments, defines what high quality transit is. Anything that's 15-minute service or better. Now, the interesting thing about that is that if you can meet that threshold, then you can stimulate, promote, change land uses to catalyze what they call transit-oriented development, right, along that corridor.
And that's similar to what's happening east-west in the northern area.
Exactly.
So what is the corridor? Where does it run from?
Rosemead. So it goes basically from the 210 freeway, let's just say. It could go a little bit further north, but the 210 freeway, Rosemead Boulevard, all the way south to the traffic circle in Long Beach where it hits PCH.
Okay.
That's 26.3 miles from north to south.
And the corridor, how wide is it?
That's a good question, because the corridor accordions in and out throughout that length, right? So you have some areas that are incredibly wide as a football field, if not even wider. You have some areas where it narrows down to maybe 3-4 lanes, right? Very small sidewalks. It's just really dependent on where it is in that segment. But there are what we call constraints or choke points along the corridor that most certainly need to be looked at deeply, addressed.
So this is a work in progress.
Right.
And is there a committee, organization, or what working this?
Yeah, so we have
project?
been working very, very hard to build up a coalition. Right, kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. If we were just one city trying to do this 26-mile long thing without the help and support from anybody else, then no one's really going to pay attention to us. Yeah. But the fact that we've been able to mobilize state senators, assembly members, other cities and their elected officials, community groups that are very much aligned with this kind of urban planning movement around transit and transit-oriented development and active transportation, things like that. The coalition now is building. As a matter of fact, we just 2 weeks ago went to Washington, D.C. to present this project to the federal legislators that represent segments of that corridor.